Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole. I'm the head of marketing at UpStack, and I'm joined today by Levi, UpStack's account executive from our sales team. And now that it's a new year, new strategies, I know a lot of businesses are ramping up for taking on their Q1 goals. And one of the best ways to set yourself up for success is to make sure that you have the best tools in place. So I thought, who better than to welcome Levi from our sales team to talk about specifically the tools and processes that he uses to be successful on the sales team. And we're going to see what he has prepared for us today. Thank you so much, Levi. I'm happy you're here.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for the introduction as well. Definitely more than it should be for me, but nonetheless, let's get right into it. So I do have a little presentation here. It's nothing too in depth, but it is the key aspects that I took into consideration, or we took into consideration when we were picking the best sales tool for the team. So to begin, to jump right into it, we needed to initially understand what it was we were looking for, and why we needed tools. Everybody talks about sales tools, their purposes, what they can help you achieve, the automation, things like that. But you need to break it down. You need to first of all understand what it is you're trying to achieve. Tools can be utilized for everything. In this instance, the tools that we really needed were tools related to outreach, how we can create better sequences, how we can ensure that we're tracking all the metrics that need to be tracked to ensure that as salespeople, we're able to monitor our progress, see what's working well, what isn't closing well, and then of course be able to grow from it. So we needed to sit down, understand how we can go about achieving generating more leads, for example. So that takes us on to the purpose of the tool. So we wanted to achieve more leads, the purpose being cool. So you as Apollo will be able to help us bring in more leads on paper. That then finalized with us figuring out how we wanted to utilize the tool. So we were fortunate enough to be able to pretty much break down the entire scope of our process, and redefined it, rebuild it, restructure it. Where we saw there were shortcomings, we just had to identify the right tools. In this instance, it was fortunately Apollo. What this allowed us to do is simply create the entire process that we needed in order to handle both inbound and outbound efforts to generate more leads. So once we achieved and figured out, that Apollo was the best way for us to go, we had to understand how we were actually going to utilize Apollo. We all know as salespeople that nothing can really be achieved without a lot of A/B testing. We need to pull apart our processes, understand what isn't working, what is working, capitalize on what's working and what isn't, and remove what isn't, sorry. Apollo really allowed us to do that extremely easily. Everything was very transparent and extremely clear. The metrics that we used to enhance our closing rates, our booking rates, things along those lines were also extremely simple to understand. This allowed us to, of course, capitalize on A/B testing. Now, in order to run successful tests, we had to create several sequences. We had to be able to measure and monitor how those sequences interacted with individuals, as well as how those individuals interacted with the sequences. And as I mentioned before, we did look at both inbound and outbound. Of course, these are two extremely different beasts and have to be approached very differently as well. So for outbound, the messaging, the type of messaging, the structure of the information had to be extremely different to inbound. So in order to do that, we put together 3 or 4 different types of outbound sequences, and same for inbound. Now, after you begin your A/B testing, it kind of goes without saying, but you need to monitor all of the results. There isn't any piece of information that you get that's a waste of your time. So we broke it down quite far. We took it, as I said, we redeveloped the entire process. So we took it to a very granular level. We understood what was working, what wasn't, and then we started to compare the results. I think the hardest part of our entire process and restructuring actually came down to measuring our own expectations against a realistic target. As salespeople, I find it's very easy for us to sometimes get caught up in the victories that we do have, and that does take away from the logical, fact-driven individuals that we do also need to be. So when it comes to a new and exciting tool, that's job is to just make your life easier when reaching out to people. It's easy to become excited. It's easy to become, for lack of a better word, impulsed by what can happen. So Measuring our expectations actually helped us massively. We were sincerely able to understand realistic goals. We were able to then set targets, and most importantly, because we reversed engineered the entire process, we understood what it took to actually hit those targets. This has led on to us being able to generate all the reports that's necessary for us to keep track of the yearly targets, understand what needs to be done, factor in every unfortunate, uncontrollable that does occur in a sales cycle. And if there are any salespeople watching this, you know there are a lot of them. But nonetheless, this has set us up for a lot of success moving into 2023. We did have an entire year to literally do this and play around with different tools and build the processes. And I think being in a company where you are actually given the freedom to be able to do that is rare. And I truly appreciate the fact that we were able to do that. Our company was able to understand that without this, we probably wouldn't have been able to set ourselves up for the success that we plan to achieve in 2023. So far, I'm quite happy with how things are going in 2023. So it seems like everything is aligning as it should, which is, of course, fantastic. But if I was to focus on one aspect of the process that was, I'd say, very eye-opening for the team was actually being forced to look at your own metrics, um, understanding where your performance dipped, understanding why it dipped, and most importantly, if it's going to be benefited by any type of tool. Um, it is a bit of an awkward conversation to have, I'll be very honest, because it's self-evaluation at its finest, right? But we got past it. We saw where we could improve, and so far we're very confident with how everything is going. But it goes without saying that all of these points need to continue to happen. Nothing here can actually stop. You need to consistently reevaluate what you're trying to achieve. You need to consistently ask yourself if the tool is serving the same purpose as it did initially. Um, and of course, how are you using it? You know, as a salesperson, you need to grow. You need to adapt to the market. You need to always have your finger on the pulse. At one point, just spray and pray was an amazing technique because people would respond. But as people became more savvy with tech, and as that whole sales approach became kind of updated, you know, we now need to personalize everything. We now know that you're not going to get in contact with the right person you need to speak to if you just send them a generic message. You need to understand before you've even spoken to them really what it is that this person pain point is. How can you identify it, and then how can you get that point across without sounding like you're trying to sell something? Is your tool still supporting you to achieve that? If it isn't, you need to replace it. Also, taking into consideration the amount of bots that exist in today's world, if you're not consistently running those A/B tests and consistently monitoring and consistently comparing your results, it is definitely a fact that you are setting yourself up for failure, regardless of the tool that you have managed to put in place. So, from my experience across many years of sales, I would highly recommend that we, as all salespeople, we gotta take a moment after we set everything up to review it, to actually ask ourselves if this is working, is it going in the right direction, and am I actually happy with the results that are being generated? If you are, you're probably making a lot of cash. You're a salesperson. You're probably very happy. What else is left to say, really? If not, definitely do it. Definitely review everything and make sure that you're actually setting yourself up for success. But nonetheless, that is everything. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me, Nicole?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very clear and concise and super helpful. And I agree with that point you said. Self-evaluation can sometimes be the toughest part of seeing if a tool works for you because no one likes to take criticism necessarily, but that really is the only way to see if something has made a tangible difference, is seeing if it improved on the area that you were weakest. So I really appreciated that point. Um, and you had mentioned a little bit about Apollo IO.
Mhm.
What to you makes a tool a game changer, and how did you come with selecting that one as the game changer for you?
Um, it's a good question. As a as a salesperson, you have to understand that your time is very valuable. And I know that a lot of salespeople kind of joke about being lazy and finding ways to, you know, just be super efficient. Um, but the reality is that most of us are actually pretty lazy people. We just know how to channel our time, how to maximize our time. We have to be very efficient, right? Time management is key. I always look at tools that require minimal effort to get going. I need to commit, of course, I need to commit some type of time, but the time invested versus the reward, what's that look like? How does that work out? We did look at a lot of tools like Apollo, and we did work with a lot of tools similar to Apollo. But it's very rare that you click a tool and everything comes up at the same time. Like, this makes sense. This is what I needed. Okay, let's go. Apollo had it all, from the um, creating the sequences, prospecting, linking the different prospecting tools that we do utilize, as well as LinkedIn to the tool, and being able to just pull data, connect it to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Insights, and be able to have all of your lists of data there. Simply just copy and paste or just import, and now they're added to all your sequences as well. It's just a very straightforward, simple tool that actually enhances a lot of your prospecting potential. Limitation, I would say, is depends on the individual, but also remember that again, as we're doing outbound work as well, because we use it for both inbound and outbound. If we're doing outbound work, sometimes a generic sequence just won't cut it. So no matter how good your messaging is, if it is automated, sometimes that's not going to work out for you. So while it is amazing and I love it completely, for all tools, I would say just, you know, keep close eye on it, pay attention to it, and use it when you see fit. Don't use it for, you found your ICP, your perfect client. This person, if I speak to them personally, this will probably close. This could go very long distance. I wouldn't send them automated messages. So I'd make that personal.
Okay, that's a really good tip. And again, you talked a lot about before the different processes that help you optimize your sales process for new leads, especially starting off with A/B testing. And
Mhm.
you had mentioned the difference between inbound and outbound messaging sequences. For, let's say it's a new SDR coming in and they've never created sequences before, what would be like the top piece of advice you would give them on where to start on creating the different sequences? Because they might not even understand that there's different types of messaging and how to tailor that to each client or each industry. So what advice would you have for like that person starting at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind, I'd like to focus on the outbound SDR because most cases that's how that would be. Yeah, just be yourself, I think it's really difficult to sit there and start to type a message to someone you have no idea about them. You have no idea who they are. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do? Um, I remember when I first started working in sales, my manager at the time told me, whenever you're about to do any form of cold outreach, cold call, cold email, anything, put the number into the phone. I'm not that old, but put the number into the phone and then just hit dial. Don't think about it. Close the screen, look somewhere else, just go for it. But be yourself. And I remember my first cold call with him. I was just like, okay, I'll try it. And I ended up speaking to the prospect about The Incredibles. Um, during a sales call, which I thought was incredible, but okay. And that went on to be one of the hallmarks that I kept. So I tell everybody, be yourself, be willing to make mistakes, make as many mistakes as possible, and just grow from it. In terms of the specifics that they would need to take into consideration when writing the messaging or conducting the outreach, uh, one thing, and that's tough. I don't think you can give one tip for that. Um, I would say be respectful of the individual's time, regardless of how they are receiving that outreach. If it's, a message, keep it brief, short, concise, to the point. If it's a call, just make sure you know your stuff and you're prepared and you're ready to receive abuse just in case. But
Hopefully not, but be prepared.
I think all salespeople got used to hearing the words no, followed by a lovely swearing. So, we got this, guys.
I love that. Okay. Sounds good. Prepare for the worst, but hopefully you expect the best.
And always be
Um,
yourself.
always be yourself. I love that. And then I know you had mentioned also the importance before, which is so true, of just being efficient and maximizing your efficiency in any given point of your day, which I know could be quite difficult for people, especially remote workers like us that work for a remote company. So for you personally, what has been like your go-to methods for boosting your productivity in like your focus time?
Um, I think the most I apologize for this, but it's going to sound super generic. But the CRM, like your CRM, has to be the life and soul of a sales team, the company, whatever. In my opinion, it's like everything that we do. is connected to the CRM. Every single department in the company is connected to the CRM. So that means any information that's there, everybody knows what's going on. If I'm not in for one day, you guys can still see what is happening, who I'm speaking to, where we are in that conversation. And if needs be, someone else can just pick it up and take it across the line. At the end of the day, we're trying to generate revenue for the company. So I always say the CRM, why? It's my to-do list. It's got all of my tasks on it. It's got all of my deals and my tickets there. I can simply just speak to everybody there. But in terms of complete productivity, I do combine the CRM, email, Slack, and my calendar. Very basic tools, but everybody knows your emails literally are your to-do list. You can't escape that. If you end your day with email still, I don't know about you guys. I don't sleep very well. I'm nervous. I'm worried. I'm anxious. I'm like, man, hopefully my boss isn't watching this. It's like, what if my boss sees and I haven't responded yet? It's like, man, it's crazy. But you combine those things and you're able to stay on top of everything day to day, and you're able to go down to things on a granular level. In our day to day, speaking to clients, speaking to developers, etc., we need that central place to be able to say, look, guys, in other teams, this is what I'm working on. This is how it's going. I'd love for you guys to collaborate with us. If you can help, that would be great. If you have any ideas, that's amazing. So actually, big shout out to Jambird, because like I've spoken to a lot of clients where I've told them about Jambird, and like, whoa, I can see the value there. And it's one of those tools where when you explain it to somebody else, they're like, oh, whoa, this is actually really good. And then moments where it is amazing, you can. Well, should I probably explain Jambird? It's a tool that we have to
Yeah, we can
yeah,
edit stuff.
okay, but yeah, nonetheless, the concept of just being able to collaborate with people easily at all times, seamlessly, that's just mandatory. And especially as we are a remote first company. So, again, to the calendar, I don't want to be sending someone a message at 9 o'clock in the morning UK time if they're in the US and who's in the team, let alone a client, but in the team, I don't want to disturb anybody. And I think it's really important to maintain that level of respect, especially when you do work remotely. So those tools help me stay in line with both clients and my teammates. It makes my life very easy. I can't complain.
Okay, so you would say tools that help enable transparency and open and clear communication are like key to helping you stay organized. And have you ever reached a point where you like, whether it's a cyclical thing or time of year, or maybe like you're near closing a deal where you feel overwhelmed? And has that process like helped you stay on track, or do you adjust your approach if you're starting to feel overwhelmed in any way?
Um, that is a really good question. We never actually discussed that aspect of it, but it is. It's a whole experience, and there's a lot of emotions when you're closing the deal or getting close to closing the deal. Speak directly from my experience. I have some interest in luck with contracts and contract negotiation. So whenever I do get a little bump from a potential client about the contract, I do have that feeling of, oh man, what's going on? What's about to happen? But fortunately, again, coming down to the communication, the moment the email comes in, it goes into the CRM, and everybody can see it, whoever's working on it. So be it the matching team, sales team, they're like, oh, how do we handle this, Levi? What do we do to fix this? So in those moments where you do feel overwhelmed, I haven't even had to say anything, and then I've already got members of my team saying, okay, what do you think we do about this? How do we do this? Here's what I think. And of course, a problem shared is a problem halved. So I'd have to agree with you. It is like, especially in UpStack, it always comes down to communication. We have no issues putting our heads together to try and fix a solution. Nobody's here with an ego to say, let's not do this. Let's do it this way. It's just, how do we fix this? Let's get it fixed. Yeah, I'd say that's about it.
Yeah, I love that quote. But can you repeat that? It was a problem shared. What was it?
A problem shared is a problem halved. Problem,
Halved?
I think how? Yeah, cut in half. I don't know. I think that's what I said.
Yeah, no, I love that. I feel like that is a very good, it could be a very cool mantra for sales teams to live by, because so many times people maybe clearly like not in sales and not in our sales team, but I feel like it's very common for people to feel like inadequate if they need to ask for help on any issue.
Mm,
But I like that concept that no matter if it's sales or any other team, if you're having an issue and having a problem, openly communicating it so that you have support from all of your team members. Using any of the tools that we have that and make that easier is, I think,
mm.
like a really great solution.
No, absolutely. I know you touched on it with horror in a different conversation, but one thing that we do a lot of in our team, I mentioned it earlier, is I just tell people to be happy and comfortable with failing. The more you fail, the more you learn, the more you grow. And in your failure, you're going to highlight things that we potentially missed. Our VP missed. It doesn't matter how far and how long you are, you can always learn something and you can always help someone, you can always grow. So we try to have a borderless sales team and it works well. Then with the tools, everything is just there. Communication is clear. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Very lovely environment, to be honest.
Yep, we love UpStack here. So thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this was very helpful. And for everyone watching, this will be on the UpStack YouTube channel. And thank you again, Levi, so much for discussing this with me today.
No worries. Thank you for your time, Nicole. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.